Other one, Paul here. Today I'm going to be going over a new combo strategy. It's not really a combo, but it does take two indicators. I've mentioned this before on, I think, a previous video with I've mentioned it before, but it's mixing like another indicator, and today I'm going to be focusing on crypto. I'm going to be going over the four main types of assets like I did last week. But I'm going to teach you how to set up this strategy, and it's pretty simple. And when you do focus on the day here, you can really see all the key moments of getting in trades. It's very easy to find when something is, longing on something and then shorting on something. So we're going to be looking at how to do this with crypto and how to look for it with this setup. It's really easy to understand. And I'm focusing on the day here, but you can apply this to smaller, shorter time frames if you want to do intraday. But I believe by doing it on the day and longer time frames, you'll make the most out of it. So that's what I'm going to gear these videos towards, is what will make the most money through the charts and what you can actually see. Because if you do it on shorter time frames, yeah, you won't make as much. But anyway, let me show you how to set it up. We're going to be looking at crypto today, and I'll show you how to set it up and find all the good results for your trading. Okay, so this strategy is very simple. It is the linear regression candle strategy mixed with another indicator here. So first I'm going to show you how to set it up with the linear registration candles. I've made videos on this briefly, but let me show you how to find it. You just go to linear. You want to go to linear regression, the top one here. You hit that one. And you basically, you can change the colors if you want, but make sure your plot line is just something that sticks out. And that's really how you set it up with the linear. What you need to do is actually hide the candles, and that's a big thing here. And then the other indicator here is the OBV MACD Let me just show you. It's the OBV MACD indicator, and you know that I changed things up. It's going to look like this. So what I basically do is I went in here and I made the plot line a white and more visible, and then I just changed the colors from a green to a red. So the blue's a green. So I changed the blue to a bright green with the opacity all the way up. And also the thickness I put down. And then I put a good bright red with the opacity all the way up with the thickness down. And that's kind of how I set it up here. So the formula here is really simple. What you want to do is you want to look... You basically want to look at your MACD indicator here, and you want to see if it matches with the linear line on the day. So we're focusing on the day. So what you need to check two different things. You need to make sure that if you're going down in a direction, you need to make sure that the candle is below the linear line. And then you also need to check to see if the MACD indicator here is below the zero line. So if you're doing a call or a short, you want to make sure that it's crossing down, and you also want to make sure that your candles is crossing down from the linear line. That is your signal to get into trade. So if we had caught this, and we're going to go over a couple scenarios here. We see right here that Bitcoin on the day, it crossed down right about here, so it's below the linear line. So you would enter your trade right here, and you would stay in the trade as long as it doesn't touch that linear line again. So it's still a good trade from this point. What you use the MACD indicator for is it has to match at exactly the same time that the linear line is going below or above the the zero line. So let's just go over a couple of more scenarios here. Now, if you did end up catching this one right here, you saw that it crossed down on a linear line. You see that the MACD is showing it too. If you wrote it out to here, this would have took 17 days, and on Forex, you would have turned a 0.01 into about $9,000. So not bad right there. So right here, we see, you can't really tell, but it did cross. It did cross in the up right here. So, and you also see that happening with the linear line. So you would come in for a short one right here, and you would ride it out a couple days. If you did a 0.01, this would have returned about $2,523. So it's very important here, and you know, I'm doing this on the day, but if you want to do this on a smaller time frame, it's basically the same thing. But you just have to pay attention to the charts more the further down you go. So we see right here that it has crossed up on the MACD indicator. And we also see that, well, it's kind of late. It's kind of late on the linear line here, but it still looks like a pretty good trade. So right about here. Even though it's a little bit late, I probably wouldn't have got it until right about here. And I rode that one out. This one would have resulted in about $6,427 in 5 days if you did a 0.01 in Forex. So right here we see it going below the linear line, and right here we see it crossing down on the MACD indicator. So we come in right about here, ride it out. You can ride it out till it touches the linear line again, which is right about here. You still be in profit. You would have turned a 0.01 into $4,685 in about 6 days, around there. So these are estimates, so I might not be as accurate on the numbers, but it's what I see here. So I do a couple times here with Bitcoin, and I wanted to go over some other cryptos. So we don't see it. We see it right here. We see the MACD indicator here crossing down, and we also see it crossing down a little bit late right here. But you know, if you find it a little late, you could still get in the trade. But if you find it late, it might be kind of a, when it's more exact, when you find it happening at exactly the same time, I find that those are actually the big moves. When you see that it's a little late, those are trades, but they won't last as long. That's just observation here. So you can see it crossing down right here. You don't really know to get in until maybe right about here. But you wrote it out. This one would have been $6,485 in about 4 days. Let's find a couple more. Let's find a couple more moments. Okay, so crosses right here with the MACD indicator, and what you basically want to do is right here you see it crossing, and you also see it going above the linear line. So you come into this trade, you can ride it out here to here. You would have made $2,709 in 6 days. So this works really well, but let's look at a couple other cryptos to see how well this would work for that. Let's look at Ethereum, see if this works for Ethereum. Now, like I said, I'm doing this on the day, but if you guys want, you can do small time frames. If you want to do smaller time frames, you're going to have to pay more attention to the charts. So right here, we see it crossing down, and then we see it crossing down with a linear line. Right about here, or here, you get in right about there. Right here, if you came in right here, you would have made Well, you would have made $334 in 8 days with a 0.01, which is not bad. So right here we see it crossing the zero line, and we see it crossing up with the linear line. So if you came in right here, right about here, you could ride this out on the day, here to here. This resulted in about $1,000 in 9 days at a 0.01. We see it crossing down right here with the MACD indicator right about here. Well, you probably wouldn't have got this. Is you see how it's late on these? When it's late on the signal, I try to find them when they match each other or they're close to matching. When it's late, it's usually telling me that it's just going to be a shorter trade, and to try to find the ones where they're matching more. But this still is a good trade. This is $440 in 4 days. So right here we see it crossing down, and once again it's late. It's late from the signal of the MACD. The MACD is telling you to do it right here, but early on it's like right up here where you could have done it. But according to the MACD, you would get in right about here. If you ride that out, you'd have made $455. It's still good, but I want to try and find one where they're both lined up. So like right here, you see it crossing on the MACD indicator, and you could basically ride the whole thing out. This is telling you, okay, right about here, they're both matching, and because they're both matching, you know this is a big, long trade. So you can ride this whole thing out, here to here, made $1,000 in 25 days. So that is Ethereum, and I think I got to the point that you guys get it. But real quickly, I'm going to go to Bitcoin. Okay, so real quickly, we're going to be looking at a 15-minute just to show you guys intraday stuff. And for those that want to do this on an intraday level, now if you do this on an intraday level, you're going to have to pay attention to the charts more. But these are more for intraday. So it's going to be about the same thing. You want to make sure it's crossing. And like right here, you see it crossing the MACD indicator with the linear line. So right about here, this is a good trade because they're both happening about the same time. Ride it out, and this is about $541 in 2 hours. Let's see if we can find any more. Okay, so we see it crossing down right here. Let's see if it's matching. Well, it's a little early there, but let's just see. You don't want to get in right about here because it's still above the linear line, but it's still a good trade. You ride this out down here. This is about $773. Right about here, we see it crossing. We also see it above the linear line. This is a very brief one. Well, not really brief because it's an hour 45 minutes, but you would have made $164. Now, so you could do this with Bitcoin on smaller time frames. You could do this with Ethereum on smaller time frames. But at the end of the day, I go with the longer time frames because this is the method here that actually gives you the best results, especially when you're going into you do with a strategy. You'll be able to find those big pumps a lot more if you do it on the day. So that's why I stick with doing it on the day. Now, real quickly, I'm going to show you how doing this on a weekly, because for those that want to do it on a weekly, remember the signal's not going to happen all the time, but you'll find a big run if you find this on the weekly. So that only happened right here. We see it crossing up. We see it crossing up right here. We also see it above the linear line. And right here, you could have rode the entire thing out to here. You would have made about $17,451 in 84 days just by doing this on the weekly and riding it out. And let's just see another moment here. You see it crossing up right here. You see it above the linear line. If you rode this out till it touched right about here, you would have made about $12,633 in 112 days. So definitely, the longer you go out in the time frames, the more money you will make. But the longer you go out in time frames, the less likely you're going to see the crosses. But if you do find the cross, it usually will result into a bigger trade. But anyway, it's up to you guys which time frame you want to use. But I kind of showed you. I do it on the day because that's the best result for me. I don't necessarily have to be looking at the chart every day. You can do it on the weekly, but the likelihood of it crossing is going to be less likely. And then you can also do it on a shorter time frame. This is a two-step process. You need to know the linear line method with the OBV MACD indicator. With two of these together, you could really find a lot of the good moments. It's up to you guys which time frame you want to use. I personally will try to do it on the day, but if I don't find it on the day, I'll go down in time frames because the bigger the time frame, the more likely you are to find a pretty good trade. So this is doing it with crypto and trading it with crypto. Next couple days, I'm going to be going over stocks, forex, and gold again with using this method. So anyway, if you like this strategy, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in future videos.